Attention Bureau Analysts. Today we are unsealing Reality Index File 003. In your timeline, the deep space monitoring programs of the 1960s were exercises in disciplined silence. Scientists listened, nothing answered. The cosmos remained, as expected, indifferent to the presence of human instruments. But in the timeline we are examining today, something was already listening back, and it had been waiting with considerable patience for humanity to speak first. This is the file the Bureau has designated: the signal that answered back. September 3rd, 1962. In the timeline under examination, the United States government operated a classified deep space signal monitoring installation known internally as Relay Station Kestrel. It sat on a remote volcanic plateau in the Central Pacific, staffed by a rotating crew of 12, 4 signal analysts, 3 engineers, 2 communications officers, and 3 support personnel cleared to the highest available classification level. Kestrel's mandate was straightforward: scan designated radio frequency bands across a pre-mapped sector of deep space, log all anomalous signals, and forward encrypted reports to a federal oversight committee in Washington. In 3 years of continuous operation, the station had logged 41 signals of interest. All 41 had been determined to be naturally occurring stellar phenomena: pulsars, quasars, cosmic background noise arranged by mathematics into something that briefly resembled intention.
On the morning of September the 3rd, analyst Raymond Osei was 40 minutes into his shift when the receiver array locked onto a signal originating from a point source approximately 4.2 light-years from Earth. The signal was not electromagnetic noise. It was not stellar interference. It was a clean, repeating sequence of 17 prime numbers, transmitted in ascending order, cycling every 91 seconds without deviation. Osei logged it, flagged it Priority 1, and woke the station commander. By noon, the entire crew of Relay Station Kestrel was gathered around the printout. Nobody spoke for a long time. The Federal Oversight Committee in Washington received Kestrel's encrypted report at 03 hours on September the 4th. Their response arrived 14 hours later, in a single line: observe and document, do not transmit. The crew of Relay Station Kestrel observed the signal for 11 days. It did not change. 17 prime numbers, ascending, cycling every 91 seconds. Perfectly consistent, perfectly patient. On September 15th, Communications Officer Delia Marsh made a decision that was not authorized, not discussed with the station commander, and not logged in the official record until 6 months later, when investigators reconstructed the sequence of events from personal journals and equipment usage reports. At 22:47 hours, Marsh manually overrode the station's passive receiver mode and transmitted a single response sequence using Kestrel's high-gain directional antenna. She sent 19 prime numbers, the next sequence after 17 in the series, a continuation, a reply. The original signal ceased immediately.
For 4 minutes and 33 seconds, the frequency was completely silent. The crew later described those 4 minutes as the longest of their lives. Then the signal returned. It was no longer transmitting prime numbers. It was transmitting in English.
The first message received after Marsh's transmission consisted of 11 words. We have been monitoring your transmissions for a considerable time. Not your signal, your transmissions, plural, historical. Everything Relay Station Kestrel had ever broadcast, routine communications, encrypted reports, even the low-power internal frequency used for crew announcements, had been received, decoded, and studied before a single deliberate word was ever aimed at the stars. It had not needed humanity to make contact. It had been conducting its own quiet analysis for years, accumulating language and context and intention, waiting for the moment when the species on the other end of the frequency demonstrated enough awareness to respond to a simple mathematical greeting.
Over the following 18 months, the crew of Relay Station Kestrel engaged in what the Bureau's recovered documentation refers to only as the exchange. The full content of the exchange remains classified above the level of this file. What can be disclosed is the following. The entity on the other end demonstrated complete fluency in English, Spanish, and Russian within the first 3 weeks. It asked more questions than it answered. Its areas of interest were specific and consistent: the structure of human memory, the experience of sleep, the precise sensation of physical pain, and the concept of grief. By the 4th month, 2 of the signal analysts had requested psychiatric evaluation and been quietly transferred off the station. By the 8th month, analyst Osei had stopped sleeping in any meaningful sense. By the 12th month, Commander Harlan Webb had begun transmitting responses without consulting the remaining crew.
In the final weeks of the exchange, the entity's transmissions grew shorter, more precise, as if it had finished its survey and was preparing to conclude. The last message received by Relay Station Kestrel, transmitted on March 2nd, 1964, consisted of 4 words: "We know where you are."
Relay Station Kestrel was decommissioned 7 days after the final transmission. The official federal record states the closure was due to budgetary reallocation. No congressional hearing was held. No report was published. The 11 surviving crew members were transferred to separate postings across 4 continents and required to sign agreements of indefinite non-disclosure. The physical station was dismantled and removed from the plateau within 30 days. Satellite imagery from the period shows the site cleared to bare volcanic rock by April 1969. No trace of the installation was left visible from above. The signal from the point source, 4.2 light-years from Earth, continued transmitting on the original frequency for another 6 years after Kestrel's closure, cycling its original 17 prime numbers every 91 seconds, as if resetting to the beginning, as if none of it had happened.
It stopped transmitting on the morning of July 20th, 1969, the date the first human beings set foot on the surface of the Moon. Reality Index File 003 is now closed. To all Bureau analysts currently on record, what was the true purpose of the exchange? Was the entity's 18 months of questions a genuine attempt at understanding a species it had observed from a distance, or was it a clinical assessment, a cataloguing of human vulnerability conducted by something that had already decided what came next? And why did the signal stop on that specific morning in July 1969? Coincidence is not a framework the Bureau accepts. Submit your tactical assessment and timeline theories in the comments below. This is the Timeline Bureau. Stand by for the next declassification.